Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Good Friends Better Rivals channel. I'm Adelia. I'm not usually here, so don't adjust your channel, don't adjust your TV set, whatever you're watching us on. I'm here in place of Suge this week. He's having some technical difficulties, and yeah, those always suck. But I'm here with Josh. Josh, our NBA expert on the channel, I guess you could say. He knows more than any of us about the NBA, that's for sure. Josh, how you doing?
Doing great. It's been a very interesting month in the NBA. We got a lot to talk about. Sadly, a lot of injuries. One of which, by the way, I'm very happy to have your expertise on, being a Denver, both Broncos and Nuggets fan. So, you've got a big month ahead of you, not only for the NBA, but also I'm going to wish you the best of luck on air for your Broncos tomorrow.
Thank you. I think we need it with the Bo Nix situation, but like the Broncos are in a great position. The Nuggets are still in a good position because they've managed to not fall completely off the rails with the Jokic injury. And then the Colorado Avalanche, my other favorite team from Denver, are top of the NHL right now. So it's quite nice to be a Denver sports fan at the moment. But we'll talk about the Nuggets here in a little bit. First off, thank you for joining us. If you are here, please like the video, share this video with your friends. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please go on ahead and do that. We just hit 300 subscribers on this channel. We're working towards 400 subscribers now. So don't miss out on everything we got going on here on Good Friends, Better Rivals. And if you have something to say about one of the topics that we are discussing here today, you can always send us to Streamlabs, streamlabs.com/LGRN_official. The money just helps us keep the lights on around here, and we really appreciate all the support that we get. Josh, what's our first topic tonight?
Let's talk about the Trae Young news. So there was a
Okay.
big Trae Young trade that happened. In fact, it happened very early on, as in the month, like almost a week or two after we had our last show. Trae Young was
Right.
traded to the Wizards, and Corey Kispert and CJ McCollum were traded to the Hawks. It was also happened very fast. Like I felt like the news of like Trae Young's going to be on the market, and they're immediately trading him to the Wizards. It was very surprising also that they didn't get any draft picks in return for Trae Young.
Yeah.
Ideally, as a casual NBA or not casual, but like as a surface level NBA fan, like what was your reaction when you heard that news?
I was utterly shocked that he was traded to the Wizards. I mean, the Wizards are like, aren't they like the worst team in the NBA? I mean,
Yeah, up there,
they're
up there.
they're they have one fewer win than the Pelicans, so they're the worst team in the NBA. Trading Trae Young to the Wizards, I didn't understand like at all. Like, surely they could have gotten something better for him back from a contending team, a mid-table team, like a different team could have given them bigger returns. CJ McCollum is a good player, but he's like getting up there in age. Like, I don't understand this move for Atlanta, and I don't understand this move for Trae Young. The Wizards get Trae Young, who could obviously help improve their team immensely, but I don't understand this trade all around.
It's definitely one of those ones where initially there were a lot of head scratchers going into this trade because if you're the Wizards, you might want the number one overall pick. And
Yeah.
initially, you're going to think that like Trae Young will help you win games. However, I think this trade really showcases the difference of like how we view Trae Young and how the
Mm-hmm.
league currently views Trae Young.
Yeah.
Because I don't think contend. Yeah, you said they might have been able to get more from a contending team, maybe a desperate contending team. But at the moment, Trae Young's value has been dipping downwards because he is a defensive liability. He looked very good in that playoff run where when they ended up losing to the Milwaukee Bucks. However, ever since then, it doesn't look like he's gotten a lot better or added a lot to this game. He's still the same player for the most part with the defensive liability, still offensive, very good player, but the league has kind of like adapted in a way where he hasn't been as productive and he hasn't been able to have as many playoff runs or be as
Mm-hmm.
productive with the Hawks.
Right.
I think there's a couple reasons of why this happened. Who knows about the locker room situation behind the scenes with Trae Young? Maybe they just wanted him out of the locker room for a very promising Atlanta team. They're also a team that
Could
is
be.
moving towards Jalen Johnson and having the team be built around him as an emerging superstar. For the Hawks, I think what this move does is it also helps with their cap room because I think initially there were some reports that this was a move to clear up cap space to go for Anthony Davis. Now Anthony
Okay.
Davis is out 4 to 6 weeks, so that won't be the thing. My guess is they're going to be very active in the Giannis sweepstakes when that happens, and when that sweepstakes is available, they can trade Corey Kispert. They'll be able to match the salaries a lot better by making this trade versus the other. And I don't think Milwaukee would be too interested in building around Trae Young after having Giannis as one of the best NBA vibes guys as all time to Trae Young, which
True.
like even while Giannis is in this kind of like downward trend, and we're going to talk about him in the injury and how the situation with Milwaukee, he's still like he could have pulled
What's
a
up,
James
Suge?
Harden and he didn't. How's it going, Shug? But and for the Wizards, the reason why I think the Wizards made this trade, and I think some people are like, well, it's going to help them win games, and then we're going to get out of the number one pick sweepstakes. First off, I think there's two scenarios. If Trae Young helps you win games, that means Trae Young is going to increase his value as an asset, and you could flip him or you can keep him.
True.
The the reason I think it's okay for the Wizards is because the NBA is a star-driven league. You need someone like a Shea, like a Jokic, like a LeBron, like a Luca to have a chance to win the finals. And those players don't come easily. They're
No.
very hard to obtain. Trae Young, even with all his deficiencies, even with him not seeming improving, even with the fact that he's such a defensive liability, he has the upside to be a player that maybe the second best player on the title team. Someone who can, if everything goes right for Trae Young, he can be a very, very valuable asset and someone who could even maybe build the offense in the team around. For the
Mm-hmm.
Wizards, they're not giving up a lot. They're not even giving up draft capital. This is just like a roll of the dice. If it works out, awesome. If it doesn't work out, we can maybe flip him while he gets some meaningless stats for the Wizards. And some people might he hasn't played his Wizards debut because he's been injured, but like he might even help them lose games just because of the style he plays. The only real worry I have is will he affect the development of the other young players on the Wizards because he is a very heliocentric ball focused player, and they have a lot of young players who they don't want to gain bad habits.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Absolutely.
Um, he's just Trae Young is such a I guess divisive figure because a lot of people you either love him or like, yeah, I don't know about him. You made a lot of really good points there, Josh, that I hadn't truly considered. I was just so like baffled as to why he'd go to the Wizards.
I think what this move says is that just like the reason why he wants to go to the Wizards is he just needs some wins at the moment. The
Mm-hmm.
vibes and his value at Atlanta is at an all time low, and even if you win some games, put up some stats, and you're bad on the Wizards, if you can at least rehabilitate your image, maybe as a teammate, maybe play a bit more tougher defense, and you're going to be able to get stats on the Wizards. If you can do that, you can maybe parlay that into a better situation where someone's like, "Well, he kind of looked good on the Wizards." I mean, Jordan Poole did that a little. I mean, on the Wizards, and now he's on New Orleans, and he's being able to rehabilitate his image and play a bit better. Although still, it's New Orleans, so that hasn't been working out for New Orleans as well. But
Yeah.
it's like and for the Wizards, just a dice. We're not giving up a lot. We don't really care about CJ McCollum or Corey Kispert. If it works out, awesome. If it doesn't work out, he's going to give us the number one pick. And then, although the Wizards the last couple of years have been like, oh, we've had the worst record, and we somehow ended up with the fifth pick. Truly one of the worst lucks when it comes to the draft lottery in
Yeah.
NBA history the last couple of years.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, well, we will see how Trey Young does with the Wizards when he comes back from that injury. What's our next topic, Josh?
Why don't we go over? We had a lot of NBA injuries. One of the biggest ones was Nikola Jokic has been out for the last couple of weeks, and surprisingly, the Nuggets haven't really fallen apart in the standings. They
Yeah.
still are the 3 seed, and I think they had another small injury with Aaron Gordon last night.
Yep.
So that will be influential. But Jamal Murray has been playing absolutely incredible. Adelia, this is probably more your expertise than mine. As a Nuggets fan, how's it been watching the Nikola Jokic less Nuggets?
It's been interesting because Jokic is the Nuggets, basically. Like the Nuggets for the past several seasons, you take Jokic off the court, they totally fall apart. And they made a concerted effort before this season to get some depth, to get a true backup center to do these things, and it's somehow worked without Jokic. Like, it hasn't been perfect. They gave up a big lead to the Lakers the other night. There's been some losses, but they did haven't completely fallen apart the way I think a lot of people expected them to when Jokic went down. And that's very good and very promising for the future for the Nuggets, I think, because one of the things I did notice before the Jokic injury was when Jokic was off the court, the point differential between the teams wasn't as awful as it usually is, because usually the bench players get totally outscored or whatever by the other team. Doesn't matter what team it is. You take Jokic off the court, we could have a 20-point lead. By the time Jokic comes back in, it's like two. So, that hasn't been happening this year. So that gave me a little bit of hope for when Jokic went down. Really glad it wasn't like a serious knee injury, like an ACL or something like that, because like that would have been awful. But yeah, they're making it through. They're surviving. They're winning games that I don't think people thought they were gonna win. We had a lineup that was basically our G League lineup the other day, and they beat a pretty solid NBA team. So yeah, it's been interesting. It's been interesting to watch, but I think it's all positives for the Nuggets.
Absolutely. I mean, it's good to look at the upside when your best player goes down and your team doesn't fall apart, because if the Nuggets want, because right now the Nuggets expectation is they want to be in the NBA title contendership. They want to be the team that beats Oklahoma City Thunder. And the
Yeah.
fact that we're getting these performances from Jamal Murray, from Aaron Gordon, from even Peyton Watson, and some people lower on the bench, it's very good that they're able to show out now, because when it comes to playoff time and Jokic is healthy, you're still going to need those guys to perform at a similar level if you want to have a chance at OKC or some of the
Yeah.
other top teams in the West. Another thing to note about the standings is they've been able to hold on. They're not the 2 seed anymore. That is, I believe, the San Antonio Spurs.
That's
And
fine.
that's fine. The question is, you gotta hold on to that 3 seed, in my opinion, because
Yeah.
once you kind of fall, like, the standings, people say the regular season doesn't matter, and that's a little true and a little not, because, like, there are still certain teams, if you're a title contender, you don't wanna see in the 2nd round, and right now, the whole NBA is probably like, "We don't wanna see the Oklahoma City Thunder until the last possible moment."
Yeah.
And if you're the 4 and 5 seed, you're going to see Oklahoma City most likely in the actually, I will just say, you will see Oklahoma City in the 2nd round. I would be absolutely flabbergasted or shocked if OK City is not the 1 seed, or if they, for some reason, don't make it out versus the 8th seed.
Yeah.
So you're guaranteed to have an extremely tough matchup. And I'm not saying the Spurs as your 2nd round matchup is easy. They're not
No.
the Oklahoma City Thunder. And you can even make
No.
the argument the Spurs are a very young team. They haven't had their first playoff run yet. And there are very few NBA teams where they finally figure it out and make the playoffs for the first time and immediately go on a huge run. You look
Right.
at the Houston Rockets of last year, who they figured it out. They were the 2 seed, and then they immediately lost in the first
Right.
round. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the Nuggets hang on in the standings. But there's a lot of positives to look at when it comes to them surviving their depth. But we've also had a lot of injury news this month. I've mentioned Anthony Davis, who's been out. John Morant also injured and out. For a Memphis team that, to be honest, is in a very weird spot. But I think the biggest one of the biggest ones, is Giannis is now out 4 to 6 weeks after
Mhm.
an injury that happened just last night against the Denver Nuggets in a 102 to 100 loss. Were you watching the game last night, Adelia?
I didn't get a chance to watch the game last night, but I did hear about the injury. It always sucks when your star players in your league get injured, and there's a lot of them at the moment that are injured. Jokic, Giannis, John Morant, whether you love him or hate him, is still a name that a lot of people know. Anthony Davis, like there's a lot of injuries going on in the NBA right now. Thankfully, none of them seem to be too serious. None of them seem to be season ending, but it really will hurt the Bucks to have Giannis out for 4 to 6 weeks.
Absolutely, and especially for a Bucks team that is like, they were in talks before this injury to be like, actually, we're going to trade for a star to try and convince Giannis to stay. And after him being injured the 4 to 6 weeks, the Bucks still are not in a great place with the standings. I think they're still in the play-in. section of the standings, if you will. Now you're missing Giannis for 4 to 6 weeks, and also normally Giannis is kind of a Superman when it comes to injuries. He's already had an ankle injury. Now he has a calf injury. There's a part of me that's like, if I'm Giannis, I'm not sure how I feel about going out this season and being like, my body's kind of going apart for a season where we'll be the 7 seed at best if I really put the team on my back. I
Yeah.
think what this injury does, and this might be unfair, is it cements that this probably will be the Bucks' last season with Giannis Antetokounmpo, just because there's no way you're going to be able to turn down that value for Giannis.
Mhm.
And I think there's going to be a lot more teams that now can kind of get in the mix and give you some very interesting
What's up, Ryan?
offers. How's it going, Ryan? Hope you're doing well. So because of that, it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough for Milwaukee. It might even be a blessing in disguise if they fall out of the play-in, where they can get a very high draft pick, and maybe with trading Giannis and getting a high draft pick, it will be maybe a way to kind of rebuild and focus on turning this roster into a younger, more building around a younger star, if you will.
Yeah.
I think the name that comes up a lot is possibly getting Alfred Şengün from Houston. If
Okay.
Houston does not win in the playoffs, you can build around Şengün. Houston goes all in on trying to be OKC, and then you can also draft someone very high up if you have the draft pick. That is, depending on how the rest of their season goes.
Yeah.
But it is a shame to see Giannis's Bucks tenure go out like this. But I think it's not a surprise because me and Shook have been talking about this ever since we started the show about how this Bucks team is really on the clock, and the fact that they're not winning is not great, and they're not putting up a roster that can really support Giannis.
Absolutely. I'm looking at the standings right now. The Bucks are currently in 11th. They're 2.5 games out of 10th. They haven't even reached 20 wins on the season yet. Now they got 4 to 6 weeks without Giannis. I honestly at this point would be surprised if I see them in the playoff. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely, and it's also now comes to the point where with this injury, do you start to have a sale a little?
Yeah.
The next time we have a show, the trade deadline will pass, and what I will say with that is there are a couple of teams where it's are you now going to start to realize this isn't your season? Milwaukee's one of them. The Kings are one of them. Is there players that you can trade that will affect the winning team? And it'll be very interesting to see. If I'm Milwaukee, I'm starting to do everything I can to start getting ready for 2028 and 2029 and seeing if I can make a quick turnaround in that sense with whatever I get from Giannis with draft capital and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Ryan just put in a chat
Yeah.
about the Raptors.
Yeah.
I think in this East, the Raptors are a very interesting team. I think the Raptors at their best can win the East. I don't think I'd put money on it, but if you're after Detroit, New York, and Boston, let's say, those are all teams that are good, but also have their flaws and have had their spurts. Boston had a very rough start to the season. The Knicks, which we can talk about right now, won the NBA Cup and then immediately decided to become frauds.
Oh
So as
man.
a Knicks fan, it's been rough to watch.
Yeah, I've been hearing
There,
about it from Ferris. Ferris, of course, are also a Knicks fan here on the channel. It's been rough for the Knicks. Yeah, they're talking about trading Cat too, right?
yeah. Here's how I feel about Cat. I don't hate Cat, and I would be okay with keeping him because we did go on a very nice run with Cat last season, and the team that knocked us out the last 2 seasons is not going to be is might be in the playoffs, but is kind of doesn't have their best player.
Right.
So I think we can still make a run with Cat. The issue is this has not been a great Cat season, and the reason why we are built around specifically Cat in a way is because we have two very good players, Jalen Brunson and Carl Anthony Towns. The issue with both of those players is their defensive liabilities. And when
Right.
you look at the history of the NBA, there's very few teams that can win with two major defensive liabilities
Yeah.
on their team. Your offensive output has to be so efficient and so great that the defensive part of it doesn't matter as much. And to be honest with Cat, he just hasn't been putting up the offensive output to match his defensive liability. He
Right.
has commits so many silly fouls. I think he's been less aggressive this season, which has been rough to watch. I also think part of this has also been like some Knicks have been coming back from injuries with Josh Hart, OG Ananobi, and like coming back and not looking 100%, not looking like themselves. I think
Mhm.
if Mikal can be a bit more consistent, that would be nice. But I also think there's been moments where I kind of like our bench, and I still like this might be delusional Knicks fan in me. I'm not going to overreact to this slump. I think it's going to be fine. I believe in this team. I believe in once the playoff time comes down that OG and Mikal can do it.
Yeah.
But
Ryan's
I
saying
think
only if the Knicks get Giannis do you get rid of Cat.
I think it depends because I haven't even gone through the process of like who can I get other than Giannis that would replace Cat, and I honestly don't know. But like I'll this wouldn't happen, but like Şengün as a name. Obviously, if Şengün is available, I will take Şengün over Cat or something like that. But like if you get like I think there are certain players that I'd be intrigued in. I'd just listen in because like if Anthony Davis was healthy, for example, and I know he's older, but the fact that he is so good defensively, and even if he isn't as good offensively anymore, especially with the injuries, I wouldn't trade for him just because of the injuries. And obviously, he's injured. He might even be out for the season. I don't remember the major injury because the Mavs are kind of in a rough space right now that are kind of painful to watch. So, and
Mhm.
when I heard the Anthony Davis thing, it was just another thing. It was like, wow, you traded Luca because he was so injury prone, huh?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So that's why you got Anthony Davis, who is so injury prone. It just truly, that
That
trade
trade
looks
that trade is so fucking insane, man.
it gets worse by the day. It gets
Yeah.
absolutely worse by the day, and I can only imagine what the trade would look like if they didn't get the number one overall pick, which was
Yeah.
very lucky. I also will quickly say, don't think the NBA draft lottery is rigged. I think it was just an amazing stroke of good luck and good
Mhm.
fortune.
Yeah, I agree.
But geez, but it is what it is. I am still going to buy Knicks stock. I still believe in the Knicks. I think we look not great now, but as long as we can hold on to that 2 to 3 seed, I'm okay. I think we will
Yeah.
be okay, and, like, I think we're going to have a tough playoffs, but, like, we still should be the favorites, honestly, with our playoff experience, with our stars, and I do think part of the reason we're losing is when we were winning and we were so hot, a lot of the shots were falling in, and that's very simple analysis is when you make your three-pointers, you win more, or when you make your shots, you win more. It
Yeah.
feels like those shots that were falling in at the beginning of the season isn't falling in as much. It feels like almost like a team-wide little shooting slump, which I think will pass. I think there'll be a medium where we won't be like the hottest team in the NFL, but we won't be I
Mhm.
mean, in the NBA, but we won't be the one of the ones in a big slump. I think it'll medium out and it will be okay. However, I am starting to get a little nervous about this Knicks watch, and we might have to talk about it more in the next episode with Shug if this continues on this trajectory. But I think we beat the 76ers today, so I'll take that.
You did beat the 76ers today, absolutely.
Yes.
Um, Ryan saying no different than my Islanders in hockey. That's why it's called a draft lottery. Yeah, the Islanders surprisingly got the number one pick in the draft this past draft for the Islanders. So the draft lottery is interesting. Sometimes it works out that you don't end up with the top pick in the draft too. Like my Avalanche, who were the worst team in hockey, got the fourth pick in the draft instead of the first. Got the best player in the draft in Kale McCarr. So draft lotteries are weird. But
Yeah. It doesn't
what
happen
else?
that much with the NBA as
Yeah,
much, but there is one or two, like the Luka Doncic draft. He didn't go number one overall. That was DeAndre Ayton and Marvin Bagley, if you remember that.
I don't.
So
But wow.
that was a crazy time because I remember the analysis and like I was just like I was one of the people who was like, I just think Luka's better than these two, but I guess if in this NBA center wasn't like devalued to the point where it is right now, where it's like, well, if you have a center who can like do this type of stuff and be that defensive thing, and people were more nervous because before Luka, European players still wasn't as dominant as it is right now, and it was like, oh well, he didn't play college basketball, so I mean, what do we
Yeah.
really know about him?
I mean,
Um,
look at Jokic. Jokic was drafted in the second round during a Taco Bell commercial.
yes,
Like, so Snark saying sometimes you get the number one pick and select Andrea Bargnani. That's true. You
that
do.
is true. New York Knicks legend Andrea Bargnani. I remember Andrea Bargnani on the Knicks. SGA did go late. I think it was like 11th or 10th in the draft, Ryan. Like there's a lot of players that slipped through. Giannis went 13th. It's like it's
Yeah.
funny, like the number one pick doesn't always lead to the best player in the NBA, but
Sometimes the
there's
number one pick leads to the biggest bust of the draft, too.
possibly, yeah. But like the issue is that like I think on average, the number one pick is mostly pretty solid. Like I think the average number one pick, and we were just talking about him, is Karl Anthony Towns, a player with a lot of promise, a lot of flashes, and a lot of talent, and maybe the second or third best player on a title team normally. But like the
Mhm.
number one pick, it's so hard. It's like normal. Like I mean, the best players in the NBA when it comes to Giannis, when it comes to Jokic, when it comes to these players, even Steph did not go number one overall. Luca,
Right.
like LeBron's one of the outliers where he went number one overall, and he's clearly been one of the best players in the league because he's LeBron James. But like it's an interesting thing to think about where it's like those true players that become the best players in the league, the MVPs,
Yeah.
they
Generally
aren't.
not the number one overall pick.
Yeah, generally not, but they. I also feel like they come so separated. Like you get a Giannis year, and then about 5 years later is when you get the next type of Giannis or SGA or whatever. I feel like they aren't very back to back. Where it's like, oh, there was this gem in the 13 in the pick overall 13 that ended up being Giannis. And then there was this 10th pick that was SGA. Normally, it's like you get a couple years where it's like, and the 13th pick did not matter. And this 12th pick, or like the entire 10 through 20s, one NBA starter or something like that.
Yeah. And again, sometimes you draft a guy during a Taco Bell commercial in the second round and he turns into the best player your team's ever had. Um, let's talk about the oh yeah, Snark saying no Canadian should forget Anthony Bennett went number one.
That was the one I always think about. Yes. So I think that's a good segue to bring up our starting five today, which will be
Yeah.
NBA rookies. NBA rookies. So,
This will be just Josh. I'm
yeah.
filling in at a very late moment. If I'd known this morning, I maybe could have come up with 5, but this will be just Josh. So
Yeah, so there's basically like 6 rookies that are in contention. When I was thinking of a starting 5, like I think there's 6, and by the way, this is a very, very good rookie class where there's a lot of like
yeah,
rookies that I'm not going to name that have been very, very solid. I'll shout out Canada right now, Colin Murphy boy. I'm probably saying the name wrong, but it's Colin Murphy Boyles, I think the name is, or something like that. He is very good defensively, and he's not going to make my top 5, but I think he will probably be a starter in the NBA for
Colin
years.
Murray Boyles.
Colin Murray Boyles. I thought I got the Boyles wrong, but it's the Murray. Okay, he's a very solid player. I don't think he has. And thank you, Snark, for helping me out there. I don't think he has the upside of these like 6 players. I'm just going to quickly mention. And honestly, you could put these 6 in almost any order, and I would believe it. Which is Cedric Coward for the Memphis Grizzlies, Derek
Okay.
Queen for the New Orleans Pelicans, and this isn't in order. Con Knipple for the Charlotte Hornets, Cooper Flag for the Dallas Mavericks, and VJ Edgecombe for the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah.
And also, there's one more. Did I say 5 or 6? I think I'm forgetting one.
I don't know.
Well, I have a list. Let me look it up right now on my phone. I apologize for this. I had the 6 memorized for a while, and then
And
sometimes the
then it
ring.
just leaves your mind.
Dylan Harper, that's what it is.
Dylan
Dylan
Harper.
Harper for the
Okay.
San Antonio Spurs. I think out of those 6, when I do a starting 5, the one that gets left out, I think, is Cedric Coward. I think he's a
Okay.
very solid player, but I think the Grizzlies have shown that they're a very good environment for younger players to perform. And he might be a great player, and I think he definitely has a chance to be very good in the NBA. And I think it's a very safe pick where it's like I'm not sure he has the ceiling as these other 5, is what I'll say. I think
Mhm.
Dylan Harper can be even though he has not been as flashy this year, but he's been on a winning team. He's been producing. He's been a very good NBA player. Same with VJ Edgecombe. I think Con Knuppel and Cooper Flagg are going to be fighting for the NBA Rookie of the Year award.
Mhm.
I I'm going to say something a little controversial. I think Knuppel's fine. I don't think he has the upside as the other 4 players. Even
Okay.
Derek Queen, who I think has the biggest floor out of all these all NBA rookies I mentioned, he
Mhm.
has shown flashes where it's like, oh, he can be a center that's able to pass, stretch the court. He had a 33-point triple double. I'm like, okay, this is a player you can maybe build around, and like in the Jokic, obviously he's not going to be Jokic, but like in the new Jokic archetype that more and more people are starting to fill into, like him, Şengün, Jokic, and I think we're getting more and more people who look at Jokic and try to play like him.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Con Knuppel is going to be a player that's going to be very good. He's going to be a starter in the NBA for like years and years to come, but I don't think he's going to be the second best player on the title team. I don't think he's going to be the best player on the title team. I think the comparison I have is like he can be a very good Klay Thompson like player, and if he fits into the right system, then he can have maybe Klay's success. But
Mhm.
and I think he again, the floor is very, very low for Con Knuppel. I would be shocked if he is out of the league in 4 or 5 years, but I also would be shocked if he's one of the best players. I think Cooper Flagg is awesome. I know he's on a bad Mavericks team. I know that it, people maybe expected more from the number 1 overall pick. I think he's awesome. I think he's only going to get better, and I think that like he is a player that has the upside to be the best player on because when I think about these rookies, I know it's weird to say when some of these rookies are putting up more numbers and stuff like that. I think the way you grade them is like, can this player be the best player on an NBA title team? Can they be a top 10
Right.
player, a top 15 player, a top 20 player? I think Khan is very, very good. And the way I would say is like he can most likely he's probably going to always be around in the top 30s, like a top 30 to top 45 NBA player, which is very, very good. I don't
Mhm.
know if he will ever crack that top 20.
Right.
Like, and with Cooper Flagg, I think he has he can be a top 10 player, I think, in the NBA if everything goes right. I think a lot has to go right for him offensively. I think it's going to be very interesting to watch. The one rookie I haven't talked that much about is VJ Edgecombe. I really, really like him. I think he's been really, really promising. I'm just waiting to see because I think he's a very and the fact that he's getting minutes on a NBA playoff team is very good and stuff like that. So these are very base thoughts, but like I think though, and I know it's a starting 5. I just named 6 rookies that I'm like these are the 6 that to watch out for. These are the 6 that are going to stay in the league for a while, who have shown a lot of big flashes, and if you're like could maybe explode into a player. And even though I'm not that high on Conkanipple, I wouldn't be well, I would be a little shocked, but I there is a chance. There is like I would say a 15% chance that he becomes a top 10 player, a top 15 player in the NBA because of his
Mhm.
three-point shooting, because of how good he is on the court. His defense is solid. He's one of the most efficient rookies in the NBA right now. He's a very efficient shooter. So I think it's going to be we have an awesome rookie class, and it's going to be very interesting to see in the next 5 to 6 years which of these rookies add to their game to the point where they can crack into that top 20 and 15.
Right.
But I think we got a lot of players that will stick around in the NBA for a while.
Yeah, totally agree. All right, what else do we got today, Josh?
Um, I
Do you wanna talk
think
trade deadline real quick?
Yeah, let's do the trade deadline real quick. So I think there are a couple teams that are going to be very interesting to watch to see if they decide to blow it up or not. I think the Kings is one of them.
Mhm.
I'd be very interesting in the Kings. The other thing is the Warriors. The Warriors are in a very weird situation because Jimmy Butler just tore his ACL.
Mhm.
He is going to be out for the season, and they have the Kaminga thing over their head, and I don't really know what his value is. I don't know what team is going to be desperate enough to try and make something out of him. Maybe it's the
Yeah.
Wizards. The Wizards seems to be the team that's just desperate enough to do anything at the moment.
I
But
mean, why not? So
why not? I mean, he'll get the minutes that he's been asking for like so extremely
It
long,
would it would hurt their chances of getting that number 1 pick, but
or help, depending
or
on what you
help.
think.
Yeah.
Depending on what you think of Jonathan Kuminga, but like I think when you look at this NBA trade deadline, you're always thinking about the teams that are going to buy in because it's like, what team is going to be a piece away? What team is going like the Hawks? Is the Hawks going to make a move for a big superstar now that they trade away Trae Young?
Yeah,
And the
Snark
Warriors
says the
did.
Warriors held on to Kaminga for too long.
They did because like the thing with the Warriors right now, and this is a very sad place to be in, is they were trying to do two things at once. They were trying to win now with Steph and Draymond, but also have Kaminga and Moody and have this like young core. And when you're trying to do two things, it's very hard to do both of them well. What normally happens is you do both of them bad. And to be fair to the Warriors, they won a title. Not a lot of NBA teams won a title in that stretch. So because Steph was Superman and Steph is awesome. But they're at a point now, which they're going to be very interesting to look at in the trade deadline as well, like, if this was any other team and any other superstar, we'd be talking about, well, maybe Steph wants to get out of there. Maybe Steph is going to leave or da da da. And like, no one truly believes that like Steph is at
I
the
don't think
moment
Steph's
at least.
going anywhere.
Exactly. It's almost like I would like compare it to Kobe Bryant at the tail end of his Lakers, where it's like Kobe's kind of on this timeline, and the Lakers are on this timeline. And
Right.
the same is kind of for the Warriors. The Steph is kind of like on a win now timeline because he doesn't know how many years he's got left at this playing at elite level. And
Mhm.
the Warriors roster is not made to win now.
No.
And so the question is like which timeline do you go towards? Because
Do you
like
prioritize? Yeah.
you can't really go fully young and fully rebuild with Steph on your roster, but you also can't win now unless you get another superstar or if, and I don't know what your path to that at the moment.
Right.
So the Warriors are in a very tricky, rough situation.
Yeah.
Um,
Snark says there's terrible rumors about Sabonis to Toronto as well.
Sabonis is one of the most interesting names. I think Sabonis is a name to watch. I think Laurie Marketing in Utah. We always say this because he's a very good player on a very bad team. I think Sabonis to Toronto would also would be very interesting. I'm a Sabonis fan. I think Sabonis is very good, and all he's done is play for bad teams. It's like the minute he was traded to the Kings, he was traded for Tyrese Halliburton, and Halliburton kind of took the Pacers to a different level. But like, I think Sabonis could be a very intriguing piece on a good team. I think Toronto could use Sabonis honestly, and I would be interested to see what they give away for him.
Mhm.
But I don't know, if I'm Toronto, I think I would be buying as well. Like, I think the Sabonis thing in Toronto makes a lot of sense. I'm like, it reminds me almost of the Pascal Siakam to the Pacers move, where at the moment, no one thought Pascal Siakam to the Pacers would lead to a title, an NBA Finals appearance. They were like, "Oh, that's nice," and they'll probably go all in a little. But no one really thought that, like at the moment, that like, "Oh, this will be the game changing move to put the Pacers in the finals," and
Right.
it ended up being that. I think Sabonis, in best case scenario, could be the move where it's like, "Oh yeah, that's nice," and they might go farther in the playoffs. But like, will that really change something? And the answer might be yes. The answer might be that Sabonis is one of the missing pieces that really unlocks the Toronto Raptors. I think that would be very interesting, and I'd be for it.
Okay. Well, the trade deadline is coming up at the beginning of February. It is February 5th at 3 p.m. Eastern, so we will see what happens there. We'll probably have a show not that long after it. Snark saying he's worried about defense, would need to give RJ Barrett up. Poetry would be fine. LOL.
Yeah, uh, I think that like that's fair. I think that like I think the offensive again, we were just having this conversation with Kat. If the offense is output is very good, you can afford one defensive liability or something like that. And the question is, do they have another huge defensive liability? Um, I thought it might have been Jakob Podol. Hopefully, I said that name right. Instead of poetry, it took me a
Yeah.
second. I was
Podal.
like,
Podal. Stupid autocorrect, Snark has said. Yeah. I was very confused about poetry would be fine.
my
Thank you
brain was
for
going
that.
towards like, oh, maybe the poetry of the Pascal Siakam thing that I
Yeah,
was
no
comparing to, or
idea
yeah,
what it meant.
yeah. But we'll definitely have a show probably maybe a week after, or like we'll figure out our schedules, but hopefully soon after the NBA trade deadline, and we'll react to all the stuff going on. And if it's an active one or a non-active one, either way, it'll be very interesting to see.
Yeah, and hopefully Suge will be back for that one, get these technical difficulties he's experienced today figured out. Um, Snark saying, I wish we could trade poetry for players.
I mean, you did once get a horse in the tree. I'm joking. I don't know if people have ever watched the NBA Game of Thrones parody or whatever that Gridiron
No, I
did.
have not watched that.
It's a very funny short series that will take you down memory lane of the NBA, but there's a very funny joke with the DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry um, Raptors, which I always thought was very funny and will always live in the back of my head. Is like there was a Terrence Ross trade they were talking about. And it's like, we'll give you Terrence Ross and some draft picks, and it's like, okay, we want a little more. And I'm probably not doing the scene justice. And they discuss it's like, we'll give you either Mario Hazonia or a horse. And they were like, "What does Mario Hazonia do?" Well, he was the former number 3 or 5 pick, and he can do stuff. And what does the horse do? Does horse stuff. And they and then they counter out. We'll take the horse. So that joke has always lived rent free in my the execution. I did not do it justice, but Game of Zones, I believe it's called. It's a whole series is on YouTube. It's about like 7 seasons almost, or 8 seasons. 5 minutes. If you ever want to go down NBA history and NBA memory lane, it is a very fun job and very good job of doing that. It was very well produced. It was a shame when it ended, but like that series is awesome. So highly recommend it.
Nice. Snark saying he could muster up a couple of limericks if needed for the poetry for players trade. Yeah. I've not watched that series, but it sounds very funny, and I will seek it out because that sounds funny. Snark, if you want to write those limericks, you can put them in the comments section of this video once we're done. Please leave a comment. Let us know what you thought about everything we talked about here on the show today. Also, like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. This is a monthly NBA show that Suge and Josh do, catching up on all the news and stuff. And then it's going to become more frequent during the playoffs because there'll be a lot more going on to talk about. Um, Josh, where can people find you?
They can find me here on LGR. Either Good Friends Better Rivals with the NBA show. Me and Delia also have our own show called the Nostalgia Crackdown, where we go over the Schmodown once a month. And we got a very interesting episode coming up, and all a Schmodown draft as well coming up. Speaking of the draft and the draft lottery, so that
Yeah.
will be very exciting to do. And so go support any support of LGR is supporting me.
You can find Nostalgia Crackdown on the Post Credits channel. You can get there by going to thepostcredits.com. It's just an easier way to get to the YouTube channel. Please go over there and subscribe. We're close to 1,100 subscribers on that channel. And like I said, we just passed 300 subscribers on this channel, trying to get it up towards 400. So please subscribe here as well. You can find me with Snark on Tuesday doing starting 11, our Premier League recap show. That's 5 p.m. Pacific on Tuesday. But you can also find me on this channel tomorrow with Suge, hopefully, doing the watch along of the Patriots versus Broncos AFC Championship game. Going to be a lot of fun. Going to be really nervous. And then if the game goes well for the Broncos, we might do the NFC Championship game too. So check those out. And until next time, everybody, we are out of here. Bye.